Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Shannon Zared, and I'm here with Alexis Martin. And today we're going to be talking about integrating bioenergy into the 9th through 12th grade classroom. So I'm going to hand it over to Alexis, and she's going to kick it off, and then I'll talk about how to do that in a little bit.
Thanks, Shannon. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Before we get started, I thought I would give a little bit of an overview of what we're going to be covering today in our webinar. First, I'll give a little bit of an overview on energy literacy and what it is and the principles that are associated with it. Then I'll kind of give a crash course of what the next generation science standards are, what they represent, and how they kind of relate to energy literacy. Then we'll give you a couple of slides on what is bioenergy, like definitions, some assumptions that you should know about, and any facts. We'll briefly touch on the 2016 BioenergizeME Infographic Challenge, and then we'll get to the main part where we talk about incorporation of bioenergy into the classroom. Just to let you know, please record any questions and comments that you may have during this webinar and send them to the bioenergizeme@ee.doe.gov email address. As a follow-up to this webinar, Shannon and I will be providing responses to selected questions. And if you have any questions generally that focus on bioenergy or BioenergizeME Infographic Challenge, please feel free to email us at the BioenergizeME email address up on the screen. So today, you'll find today's webinar recording, slides, and transcript up on the Bioenergy Technologies website, which is listed up on the screen. So bioenergy has come a long way since wood, dung, and other organic matter was first burned for light and heat by early human civilization. There are many ways to capture bioenergy from organic materials, and technologies are advancing continually to use bioenergy more efficiently and cleanly. In the United States, biomass provides just a portion of the variety of resources used to meet America's energy needs. As our awareness increases about the uncertain availability of energy resources and the environmental effects of producing and using them, it is more important than ever to understand basic energy principles, energy resources and technology options available, benefits and challenges of various energy resources, and how students and their peers can play an important role in shaping America's energy future. Many young people haven't thought much about bioenergy as an option for power, transportation, and other products. But that's understandable because the variety of information available about bioenergy, including its benefits and challenges, can be confusing. However, bioenergy is easily related to fundamental scientific concepts. It also enhances multidisciplinary and comprehensive system-oriented learning in the classroom. And also, bioenergy can address important societal and global implications. So now I'll move on to give a little bit of a history and background on energy literacy. Energy literacy is an understanding of the role and nature of energy in the world and in our daily lives, as well as the ability to apply this understanding of energy to answer questions and solve problems. An energy literacy person can trace energy flows and think in terms of energy systems, knows how much energy he or she uses, for what, and where that energy comes from, can assess the credibility of information about energy, can communicate about energy and energy use in meaningful ways, is able to make informed energy and energy use decisions based on an understanding of impacts and consequences, and continues to learn about energy throughout his or her life. Now, a comprehensive study of energy must be interdisciplinary. Energy issues cannot be understood and problems cannot be solved by using only a natural science or engineering approach. Engineering issues often require an understanding of many interdisciplinary topics. This includes an understanding of civics, history, economics, sociology, psychology, and politics, in addition to math, science, and technology. On the flip side, energy literacy is a part of being literate in the social and natural sciences. References to energy can be found in the national education standards in nearly all academic disciplines. A better understanding of energy can help individuals and communities make informed decisions on issues with local to global impacts. Current issues such as fossil fuel supply and climate change emphasize the need for comprehensive energy education. Energy literacy, essential principles and fundamental concepts for energy education is an interdisciplinary approach to teaching and learning about energy. This framework identifies 7 essential principles and a set of fundamental concepts to support each principle. The guide does not seek to identify all areas of energy understanding, but rather to focus on those that are essential for all citizens, kindergarten through grade. And it presents energy concepts that, if understood and applied, will help individuals and communities make informed energy decisions. The intended audience for energy literacy document is anyone involved in energy education. Intended use of the document as a guide includes, but is not limited to, formal and informal energy education, standards development, curriculum design, assessment development, and educator trainings. To download or request a copy of the Energy Literacy Framework, please visit energy.gov/energy-literacy. The Energy Literacy Framework is not prescriptive. Rather, it is a scaffold intended for energy curriculum developers and instructors. The principles are meant to be broad categories representing big ideas. Each fundamental concept under the principles is intended to be unpacked and applied as appropriate for the learning audience and setting. The concepts are not intended to be addressed in isolation. A given lesson on energy will most often connect to many of the concepts. At the core of energy literacy, essentials, principles, and fundamental concepts for energy education are 7 essential principles. Each principle is supported by 6 to 8 fundamental concepts. Principles 1 through 3 cover the natural sciences, which includes physics, chemistry, earth science, and biology. Principle 4 addresses energy resources, use, and infrastructure. This is largely an engineering and technology principle. Principles 5 through 7 are social science principles covering energy issues related to decisions, behavior, civics, economics, and more, all largely through a lens of impacts and consequences. It's important to note that the energy literacy framework is meant to be used across disciplines. Both an integrated and interdisciplinary and system-based approach to understanding energy are strongly encouraged. As well, the energy literacy framework has been aligned with the next generation science standards for elementary, middle school, and high school levels. Please visit the energy.gov Energy Literacy website to see specific connections between the 2 sets of learning objectives. So for more information on the Energy Literacy Framework, you can also contact Clarissa Childers, the EERE, or Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Education Project Manager at the Department of Energy. You can also find a quick start guide on energy literacy, which includes basic info, tips to get started, sample activities, and sample resources at the link provided on this slide. So now I'll go into what the next generation science standards are. The next generation science standards, also referred to as NGSS, are a set of core disciplines and ideas that standardize how science is taught in learning settings throughout a state-led process. It's been 15 years since science standards were revised, and many advances in science, education, and technology have occurred. The next generation science standards are based on 3 standards: disciplinary core ideas, cross-cutting concepts, and science and engineering practices. The overall goals of the next generation science standards are 4-fold. 1 is less memorizing and more sense-making, making connections to common core, grounding practice and research, and applying knowledge in context. The 4 core disciplines that the NGSS focuses on are life sciences, physical sciences, earth and space sciences, and engineering and technology. Diving deeper into those 4 disciplines are the core ideas that are associated. For life sciences, this includes structures and processes, ecosystems, heredity, and biological evolution. For physical science, this includes matter, motion and stability, energy, and waves. For earth science, this includes Earth's place in the universe, Earth systems, and the interaction of human activity and the Earth. And finally, for engineering technology, this includes design and links among engineering, technology, science, and society. So before we jump into how bioenergy can be incorporated in the classroom, we'd like to give a short review on the basics of bioenergy, including some key definitions, general concepts, and perspectives. Bioenergy is a form of renewable energy derived from biomass to generate heat and electricity, also known as biopower, biofuels, which are transportation fuels, biochemicals, and other energy-related bioproducts that are produced from biomass. Biomass is the organic material that has stored sunlight in the form of chemical energy. Plants can be thought of as warehouses for solar energy. Through photosynthesis, plants collect sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water, and convert it into chemical energy in the form of sugars that are stored in their biomass. One type of sugar that's created by biomass is called cellulose, which is the main component of plant cell walls. Made from sugar molecules, cellulose can be thought of as the structural frame of the plant cell wall, sort of like the steel beams in a building. Scientists and engineers are using cellulose to create bioenergy. Biomass that is used for bioenergy production is called a feedstock. There are 5 different types of feedstocks that are primarily used for bioenergy production: agricultural residues, forest residues, energy crops, algae, and municipal solid waste. Agricultural residues are plant parts left in the field after harvest. This plant matter and secondary residues like manure and food processing waste can be useful feedstocks. Forest residues are leftover wood or plant material from logging operations, forest management, and land clearing. Secondary residues like mill waste supplement this category. Energy crops are fast-growing trees and perennial grasses that are specifically grown for energy uses. Trees and perennial grasses can often be grown on land that is less suitable for conventional crops and can stabilize the soil. Many macroalgae, microalgae, and cyanobacteria carry out photosynthesis to drive rapid biomass growth. Algae biomass can contain high levels of oil, making it a promising feedstock for biofuels, including renewable gasoline. Municipal solid waste, such as dead leaves, food scraps, and other garbage thrown out, also has the potential to be a bioenergy feedstock. Bioenergy is the energy that is produced from renewable biomass resources, but bioenergy does not include solar, wind, water, geothermal, or nuclear energy. Bioenergy also does not include non-renewable fossil energy resources such as coal, oil, or natural gas. Overall, when thinking about bioenergy, we suggest that you keep the following in mind. Bioenergy is only one of several renewable energy resource options for the United States. And bioenergy itself is neither good nor bad. It needs to be produced in ways that provide benefits and overcome challenges. So I want to give a little bit of a background as to the workings of the 2016 BioenergizeME Infographic Challenge. So the next 10 to 20 years is going to be about children and young adults making the decisions about how bioenergy will be implemented into society to become much more than just an energy source. One way that the Department of Energy Bioenergy's Technologies Office is addressing that age group is through the BioenergizeME Infographic Challenge. The overall goal of the competition is to enable students to be better, more informed consumers of energy information and to have the ability to dispel energy myths they may encounter in the media and other sources of information. Teams of 2 to 5 students from 9th through 12th grade create infographics to learn about bioenergy as well as educate others about what they have learned. Selected teams will have the opportunity to promote their infographic in an 11-day social media challenge. Winners are selected based off of the quality of the infographic and the effectiveness of the team's social media campaign. Resources for the BioenergizeME Infographic Challenge are ready to be used in the classrooms for general lessons about bioenergy, as well as participating in the competition. Some resources that are provided as part of the competition include research topics and prompts, guidance on how to do research and references, links to government-funded publications, webinars such as this one, and guides on how to create infographics and social media campaigns. There are 4 topics to the 2016 challenge, which include bioenergy history, workforce and education, science and technology, and environmental impacts. Going a little bit deeper into those topic areas, for bioenergy history, possible areas of focus include history of biomass, history of bioenergy, and the low-carbon future. For topic area 2, workforce and education, possible areas of focus include bioenergy and biofuels careers, STEM education and bioenergy, and non-traditional bioenergy careers. For science and technology, possible areas of focus include advanced biofuel conversion, second-generation conversion, and the types of bioenergy feedstocks that are available. And finally, for environmental impacts, students could possibly focus on life cycle analyses, bioenergy systems or cradle-to-grave analyses, and the environmental benefits of bioenergy. Up on the screen, you'll see the Spring 2015 finalists for the 2015 BioenergizeME Infographic Challenge. The infographic titled Cellulosic Ethanol was the overall winner of the 2015 challenge and was designed by students from Williamsburg High School for Architecture and Design in Brooklyn, New York. The picture of the winning team at the Bioenergy 2015 conference is up on the screen as well. Just to let you know, the overall winning team of the 2016 Infographic Challenge will also have the opportunity to come to Washington, D.C. next July to share their infographic at our annual Bioenergy 2016 conference. The BioenergizeME Infographic Map is also a really unique tool that is an interactive activity to view infographics that have been submitted by student teams across the country. You have a map here, and it shows the different areas where students have submitted infographics. And you can click these colored markers to see more details about infographics. Visit the website, our website here listed on the screen for more information and to have your own test run of our interactive activity map. So now I'm going to pass it on to Shannon, who's going to get into how to incorporate bioenergy into the classroom.
All right. Let me just take the helm here. Okay. So I just want to preface this by saying that this list is not intended to be exhaustive, but merely to get you thinking about possible ways to bring bioenergy into the classroom. So as you're going to see, there's a lot of potential applications for this topic, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun trying to incorporate this into your curriculum. So again, we're going to focus on the 4 major disciplines outlined above, starting with the life sciences. And for each major unit, I'm going to outline bioenergy application, give some activity suggestions, and then highlight which energy literacy principle and BioenergizeME topic it most closely relates to. So if you don't catch any of it, we're going to post these slides again. So if you want to see how all these bioenergy topics, NGSS standards, energy literacy principles, and BioenergizeME topics align, then you can go ahead and check that out. Okay. All right, on to the first unit in the life sciences, from molecules to organisms. So in this unit, you can use bioenergy as a model to illustrate how photosynthesis transforms light energy into stored chemical energy. You can also look at how micromolecules are essential to biological components that perform a wide array of functions necessary for survival and growth.
Yes, these slides will be available. Somebody asked if these slides will be available after the webinar is over, and we will make these available as soon as possible. And we will also within the presentation is Clarissa's email that you can access as well.
Okay. So, to put it simply, photosynthesis uses the sun's energy to convert carbon dioxide and water into oxygen and simple sugars. The sugar that is not immediately used to power an organism's cellular functioning can be synthesized into larger complex molecules that then serve to store this chemical energy. We can then use this stored chemical energy to generate other usable forms of energy. So the application of this, and here are just some suggestions for you to work with. You can do an activity where you measure plant dry mass. So students can see that the bulk of a plant's mass comes from atmospheric carbon that has been fixed into chemical energy during photosynthesis. You can also do a lab activity where students use the enzyme cellulase to break down cellulose from paper pulp and identify the resulting components. And that way they can really understand the functional role of macromolecules such as enzymes and carbohydrates in both biology and a real-world application. Okay? You can actually purchase cellulase online for use in your classroom, but if that's not an option, there are lesson plans out there that use relatively inexpensive alternatives to model this process as well. Okay? So this topic closely relates to energy literacy principles 3 and 4, and then topic 3 in the BioenergizeME challenge. Okay, on to ecosystems. So during a discussion of ecosystem dynamics, bioenergy can be used again to discuss the role of photosynthesis in the cycling of carbon among the biosphere, atmosphere, hydrosphere, and geosphere. Okay. You can also describe its use as a potential solution for reducing the impacts of human activities on the environment and then biodiversity. So the burning of fossil fuels and biofuels each affects the carbon cycle differently. Burning fossil fuels adds carbon to the short-term carbon cycle more quickly than the short-term carbon cycle can remove it. So to really understand this, students can create a flow chart to trace the flow of energy and the cycling of carbon through Earth systems with special focus on the difference between the impacts of using different energy sources. And they'll be able to demonstrate how biofuels do not contribute additional carbon to the short-term carbon cycle. So that's definitely a topic that requires a little bit of extra thought. I think the carbon cycle is a really interesting application for bioenergy. Okay. Again, energy literacy principles 3 and 4. And then that goes with topics 3 and 4 in the BioenergizeME challenge. Okay, on to heredity. So this is actually has a really great application for potential STEM careers. So we can examine the field of bioengineering as it applies to bioenergy research to demonstrate how structural changes to genes may affect the proteins they code for, which can ultimately result in a functional change for the organism. So in the context of bioenergy, how can changes in the genes that code for cell wall formation, growth, resistance to drought and disease, and even tolerance of suboptimal growing conditions enhance the cultivation of energy crops? Or we can even look at how do we modify the genome of a microbe to produce enzymes to degrade cellulose more efficiently. Okay? So there's a lot of different things that we can look at from a genetic point of view. So you can use an activity where students alter base pairs on codons to change the sequence of amino acids and then ultimately the resulting protein. They'll be able to determine if these alterations would have a beneficial effect on the organism for biofuel production. So again, a great opportunity to look at potential STEM careers. Okay, no energy literacy principles here, but it does relate to topics 2, 3, and 4 in the BioenergizeME challenge. All right, on to the last unit, biological evolution. So in this unit, students can examine the use of bioenergy as an option to mitigate adverse impacts of human activity on biodiversity. So you can have an activity which requires students to design solutions for climate change using biodiversity specifically as a model. And you could put them in the role of a natural resources professional. Have them examine what management decisions or what production systems would limit environmental impacts of bioenergy production while enhancing biodiversity. Okay. So energy literacy principles 3 and 4. And then topics 2, 3, and 4 in the BioenergizeME challenge. All right, we're going to move on to the physical sciences. All right. In Unit 1, we're looking at matter and its interactions. Okay, this is a great way to examine the chemical conversion of cellulosic biomass to biofuel. Okay, so here we can examine the chemical conversions required to turn biomass into bioenergy. So that's a good tool to explain the structure, properties, and interactions of matter. We can also answer how substances combine or react to make new substances, as well as how to characterize and explain these reactions to make predictions about them. So the cycling of matter and the associated transfers of energy in systems depend on physical and chemical processes. The carbon cycle involves transfers between carbon in the atmosphere and carbon in living or formally living matter. And you've got some reactions that release energy, for example, the burning of fuels in the presence of oxygen, and others that require energy input. So synthesis of sugars from carbon dioxide and water. So we've got photosynthesis and the combustion of fuels. So since the conversion of raw biomass to biofuel requires a number of chemical reactions, this is actually a great opportunity to utilize analytical methods such as fermentation, distillation, and hydrolysis to challenge your students to identify physical changes of matter, classify different types of reactions, explain the role of catalysts and reaction rates, and introduce them to energy transformations, which you'll start to see in the next unit. Okay, so there's a number of activities available right now where students can actually break down plant tissue with the help of enzymes, ferment simple sugars into alcohol fuels, or convert vegetable oil into biodiesel. Okay, so there's a lot of activities, and I will show you resources at the end that you can go to and look these up. Okay, so this goes with Energy Literacy Principles 1 and 6, and Topic Area 3 in the BioenergizeME Challenge. Okay, on to energy. So obviously bioenergy, it's a very practical way to demonstrate the concept that energy cannot be created or destroyed, but rather transferred between systems. From the conversion of solar energy to stored potential energy, all the way to the combustion of fuels, there are a significant number of energy transfers involved throughout the bioenergy life cycle. This is another great opportunity to have students map this process from beginning to end, describing how energy is being transferred within a real-world context. And my favorite, this is also a good place to throw in some quantitative reasoning as well. So they can calculate the change in energy of one component in a system when the change in energy of the other components, as well as the energy flows into and out of the system, are known. Always a great time to have some quantitative problems thrown in there. Okay, so Energy Literacy Principles 1 and 4, and then Topic 3 in the BioenergizeME Challenge. All right, on to the planet Earth. Okay, so for the second unit in Earth and Space Science, we're looking at Earth's systems. Okay, how do the Earth's major systems interact? What regulates weather and climate? And how do living organisms alter Earth's processes and structures? All right, so transfers of energy and the movements of matter can cause chemical and physical changes among Earth's materials and living organisms. So climate change is going to be a large part of this conversation. So this is a good opportunity to relate how changes in the composition in the atmosphere due to human activity are affecting climate. And this feeds into the next unit as well. So some potential activities include performing a life cycle assessment for the use of biofuels and fossil fuels to see how each step in the value chain influences Earth's major systems, including the atmosphere, the biosphere, the geosphere, and the hydrosphere. So life cycle assessments are really great, sort of student-centered learning tools. This is Energy Literacy Principle 2, Topic Area 3 in BioenergizeME. All right, so as I said, the last unit really fed into this one, Earth and human activity, okay? So this one focuses more so on how Earth's surface processes and human activities affect each other. So how are we interrelated? How do we depend on the Earth's resources? So humans depend on all of the planet's systems for a variety of resources, some of which are renewable and some are not. All forms of resource extraction, though, and land use have associated economic, social, environmental costs and benefits. So responsible management of natural resources can help shift the balance towards sustainable utilization. So this could be a good opportunity to engage in scientific modeling. You can look at the long-term environmental impacts of renewable and non-renewable resource use. Students can then evaluate data, so it's a great opportunity to work with data sets, and help identify potential problems and even suggest desirable changes in the patterns of use. Okay? There's a lot of energy principles here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then goes the topics 1, 2, and 3 in the BioenergizeME Challenge. So our last unit is going to go into engineering design. Okay, so scientists and engineers are going to make major contributions to the responsible management of natural resources by developing technologies that produce less pollution and preventing ecosystem degradation. So the emerging bioeconomy specifically will require these skilled workers who are good at problem solving. It's a really good opportunity to challenge your students to engage in STEM careers. Challenge them to design a solution to something that addresses a need in the field of bioenergy. Okay, so for this guy, energy literacy principle 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then BioenergizeME topics 3 and 4. So overall, you can really see that bioenergy is interdisciplinary, and there are a lot of applications for it in the classroom. So you're going to see that's going to make a great topic for a synthesis project. You can really evaluate a lot of different learning outcomes across multiple principles in your course. In addition to this, it can also lead to collaboration among different disciplines at school. There may be an opportunity for you to work with another instructor and create a kind of a cross-cutting unit or project throughout all of the major science disciplines that's focused on bioenergy. Now, on to the resources. There's a lot of great resources that can help you here and kind of supplement what we've been talking about. So if you're on our challenge website, okay, under our research resources, you can go to the EERE education toolbox, and I also have a link to this later, so don't worry. You can open up, it'll go take you to our education toolbox, which has a number of great lesson plans. Okay, so all of the activities that I've been discussing, there are a lot of similar lesson plans and tools that are available online that were very, very similar to those activities. So here's one that I was talking about where students get to create biodiesel from vegetable oil. So definitely look at that and check that out. And then I also want to go ahead and talk about BioenergizeME again. It's a really great way to complement existing bioenergy curriculum or get started for the first time. So there's really a lot of flexibility built into the challenge to help energize your curriculum with bioenergy. And if you register by December 31st, we have a special going on right now where you and your student teams can get access to an exclusive webinar. And that way you guys can kind of chat with the BioenergizeME team, learn about bioenergy, the competition, right before you submit. So I've provided the link to registration there. And then here are all the useful links for you, some of the things that we've outlined today. And again, we will post these slides, so you can go back to these at any point and log on to our website and use our education tools.
So thank you, Shannon, for that very insightful lesson on how to integrate bioenergy in the classroom. I sure learned a lot. So we have a couple minutes for questions. So if you want to chat or ask any questions now in the chat box, we would be more than happy to answer some questions for you. All right, we have one question coming in. The question is, when is the next BioenergizeME webinar? Shannon, would you like to answer that?
So the next BioenergizeME webinar is going to be held January 21st, okay, the same time, 4 o'clock, and we are going to be covering basically how to succeed in the challenge. We're going to be talking to last year's winners and getting some pro tips and advice. We're going to be asking them some questions and seeing what they got out of it, so it's a good opportunity to chat with last year's winners.
All right, we have another question asking, where are the specific prompts for the 2016 BioenergizeME Infographic Challenge located? Well, those are actually located on our, if you go to the Bioenergy Technologies Office website, which is up here, listed up here, and go to the BioenergizeME Infographic Challenge, you can see the different specific questions that we've given under each topic prompt to use. And if you have any questions on or clarifications on any of the prompts that we've listed, please feel free to reach out to the BioenergizeME team. So we have another question here asking on where can you learn more about bioenergy? Well, we have lots of resources that are available on our website at bioenergy.energy.gov, which you can also get to by using any of the links that you have up on the screen. Okay, we have another question asking, where can I get more information on the next generation science standards? Well, the next generation science standards, you can get information on the National Science Teacher Association, or NSTA, website, who helped, along with the National Research Council, help develop these next generation science standards. And I really recommend that if you are thinking about integrating these next generation science standards in your classroom curriculum, that you really look at these. And there's some really cool tools about how they present and display cross-cutting themes within the next generation science standards, the Common Core standards, and the older science standards that were developed about 15 years ago. Will these slides be available? So just to let you guys know again, these slides will be available. We hope to have them posted up as soon as possible, as well as a transcript of what we talked about today. I know that the first half of the presentation was a little sped up because we wanted to get to the meat and potatoes of the presentation about how to integrate bioenergy into the classroom. So if you missed anything and you want to learn more about what energy literacy is, who you can contact within the education office, and anything about the next generation science standards, or even bioenergy basics, please feel free to look at our webinar when it gets posted up as soon as possible. We also have different webinars that are available for the public on bioenergy basics, and more of a logistics-based webinar on the actual 2016 BioenergizeME Infographic Challenge.
Okay, so actually we have a really good question. Are there any resources available for elementary and middle school classrooms interested in bioenergy? So yes, there are. That educator's toolbox also includes middle school activities. So you can use their search tool to search by grade level as well as subject matter. So depending on whether you're biology, chemistry, physical sciences, there's a lot of different resources available to you.
There's a question asking whether most of these programs are handled by state science education programs or if it was most local. If you are the author of this or asker of this question, are you asking more about the BioenergizeME, getting that integrated into the classroom, or are you asking more about the next generation science standards? Because the next generation science standards are a state-led initiative, and it's been adopted, I believe, in 16 states at this point, and more states are interested in integrating them into their classrooms now.
Yeah.
Getting it integrated. Okay, so this could be pretty much, you can integrate bioenergy either at the state level or at the local level. We've realized that there are not very many resources available at this point on bioenergy and how to integrate it into the classroom, and so we're just kind of providing a resource available to educators and teachers and informal education providers to just get the conversation started about bioenergy.
So you don't have to be NGSS aligned to, like she was saying, to integrate these principles. So they do follow Common Core principles in most scientific curriculums. We just use NGSS as a framework to kind of guide our presentation.
And it's also a helpful tip and reminder that the energy literacy principles that were also listed on each of these slides that Shannon went over are also aligned to the next generation science standards. And if you're really interested in how energy literacy principles and the next generation science standards align, the education office has a very cool spreadsheet that kind of gives you an overview of how they connect. And those are available on our slide about next generation science standards. So any more questions before we sign off? Oh, here we go. Are there any resources available for elementary and middle school classrooms interested in bioenergy?
That's what I...
Oh, you did? Okay, awesome. Cool. So we'd like to thank everybody for joining us today, and we hope that you will join us in January and listen in on our next BioenergizeME webinar. And if you have any questions about the challenge itself, We would love to answer any of your questions if you contact us at the BioenergizeME email address. Again, thank you so much for everything. And just one more question, sorry, is the date of the next webinar is January 21st at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yes, you will be able to access the recording of this webinar. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.